You can't allow who people once were to make you overlook who people are in this moment. And so I get a lot of people asking me or telling me how they're holding on to certain people because they know the potential of what it could be or they know what it once was. And I always tell people who express those things, it's like you're playing a dangerous game by assuming that you can get something back to what it once was because you're ignoring the reality of what the situation is in this moment. Because just like the past with yourself, the same past with certain relationships and things like that, like the past doesn't matter sometimes. Like it doesn't matter what has happened before, where things once were. Sometimes you have to just pay attention and accept the reality of where it is now and stop making excuses for a certain situation. Because what you're really going to end up doing is holding on to things that are no longer for you. What I had to realize and what you have to realize is that people are capable of changing. People's opinion towards you change. People grow. People go through different experiences, and their whole perspective of how they see the world changes, and their behavior changes. And sometimes that just no longer aligns with how you live your life, and that's okay. But you have to have the self-awareness and the honesty with yourself to realize when certain things are time to be let go of. Because I always tell myself, like, I can't disrespect myself trying to wait for other people to be the person who I need them to be, because that's number one out of my control, and that's something that's never guaranteed to happen. Sometimes we see the potential of what things could be or what we want things to be, and we hold on to that. We hold on to ideas, we hang on to visions, and we're like, try and manipulate people in a way to step into that vision or step into that that idea or that made up reality we have in our minds. But again, you can't make anyone change into somebody who they don't want to be, and you can't make people change into somebody who they aren't ready to be. Because sometimes we grow ourselves personally, we grow to a certain point in our life, and our expectations change. Our boundaries change, what we want out of certain people change, how we need people to show up in our life. It changes as you grow because you mature, you become a better version of yourself. And so, everything else changes along with that. And sometimes other people haven't done the necessary growth, or not even the necessary growth. Their journey has just led them down a different path, and they may not be growing in the same way in which you're growing. They may not value the same things in which you value, and hanging on to certain people and waiting for them to step into being who you need them to be sometimes can keep you in places that end up hurting you more than they do even benefit you. And I always tell people, like, I think when it's time to let certain people, time to let certain people go when people bring more chaos into your life than they do peace. Because when you're constantly hanging on to potential and what good people had in them in the past and what good and what feelings they brought to your life in the past, that's hanging on to the past, hoping that it eventually comes back again into reality, which again isn't guaranteed and is more than likely not what's going to happen. Because at what point do you stop waiting? At what point do you say, this is no longer for me? Like, what has to happen for you to see the reality for what it is and not for what it could be or not for what it once was? Because again, like, you keep yourself in certain situations, you end up missing on the life that's waiting for you to step into it because of your unwillingness to let go. And I get it, because when you become familiar with certain things so much, like, you get in this mindset to think like you can fix people, you can control everything. But you also have to realize that relationships and dealing with other people is two-sided. Like, again, you can't make people be who they don't want to be. You can't make people do certain things. Like, it's a two-sided thing. And you have to recognize when, you're not receiving the energy that you need to receive, or you're not, getting the person that you need to have, then at what point do you have the self-respect for yourself to say, okay, the situation is just no longer for me? And I think a lot of you guys have kept yourself in certain situations, hanging on to hope, hanging on to how things could be, because you have that fear. And I get it, like, you have that fear of, one, making the wrong mistake, and the fear of just not letting the go, wanting to let go and not having to go through that process of healing, or that process of having to rebuild yourself or reconnect with yourself. You might be afraid of being alone. You might be afraid of just losing certain people because they've been such an important factor of your life and you don't know how to move forward in life without them. So you would rather try and fix what you have rather than try and create something new. And I get it, because I've done that before in my past as well. But I also had the honesty with myself to recognize when I needed to distance myself from certain people, when I needed to let go of certain people. And it takes some time to develop that awareness. It takes some time and some courage and some real strength to actually make that decision, because again, there is a lot of uncertainty, and sometimes you could make the wrong choice. Sometimes you could give up on people too early, but I think you also have to like understand what's best for you in certain moments. And it gets to a point where it's working through things and then just allowing yourself to suffer because nothing's actually changing. I think it's a difference between when people are putting in effort to become better and they're just going through the process of changing and trying to grow, which comes with mistakes, failures, and just like figuring it out. But then I think it's another thing when people stay stagnant and they're complacent in being who they are, and that no longer aligns with who you need them to be, because at some point you have to get tired of it. I always say this, like, people owe you nothing, but you owe yourself everything. Like, people don't owe you to change. People don't owe you being who you want them to be. People don't owe you to grow into a better version of themselves. People don't owe you stepping into the potential of what where you see things going, or they don't owe you stepping into your vision. But you owe yourself that self-respect. You owe yourself that self-love. You owe yourself doing what's best for you, because you never want to get to a place where, again, you're disrespecting yourself in hope that somebody else's changes. Because again, you're making excuses for people. And I've been there before. Again, I've been there before where, you see things for how they once were. So you see the potential, or what it could be. Hey, they could supply this feeling. They have that person in them. They were once this person, so I know they can get back to being that person. But in reality, again, all those things are out of your control. And so when you're hanging on to possibilities, you're making excuses for people. You're allowing people to walk over you, and you kind of diminish that self-respect that you have for yourself, because you're letting people by in hope that eventually things will change, rather than enforcing the boundaries in which you have set to everybody else but that person. It's like you're making excuses, or you're making exceptions for certain people out of hope that eventually things will get back to how they once were, or eventually things will be how you want them to be. But then again, what's familiar isn't always what's best for you. Like, I've been a person, and you probably are a person who, you see all the green flags, you see all the good out of the situation, because you're just trying to keep that positive mindset. You're trying to find all the reasons for you to hold on, even though on the other side, it's kind of ready or time for you to let go. Or even like sometimes you try and hang on to like the memories, and you're like, oh, we could recreate these, or you're holding on to the memories and the good moments, and it's making you overlook all the negative things, because sometimes the reality of the situation is that people no longer respect you. People no longer respect your boundaries. People no longer love you in certain ways. People no longer care for you. People are no longer people that you can trust. People are no longer people who show up for you. People are people who no longer, care to put an effort towards you. People become people who don't see you as worth fixing things with. And it's like, you almost put this whole pressure on yourself to fix something that isn't really capable of being fixed by solely you. Again, things are two-sided. And so if somebody doesn't want to do something, if somebody doesn't see the vision that you have, then, what can you really do? All you can do is do what you can do, but at what point is what you're able to do not enough, and you recognize that, and recognize that the situation is just no longer for you? Because we tend to think that, oh, because I've been loyal to this person for this long, this person's been in my life for this long, like, I have to fight for them, or I have to keep them around, or I'm obligated to do this, I'm obligated to do that. Oh, they're just, you make every excuse in the world for them. But it's like, again, people change. People aren't always who we need them to be. People go down different journeys, go down different paths. People develop different morals, different values, different standards, different ways in which they decide to live their lives. And sometimes that doesn't always align with how you want things to be. And you have to be honest with yourself about that, and recognize when it's time for you to let go for your own sake. Because it's not that you're trying to give up. It's not that you want to give up. But it's like, at what point do you have enough love and enough respect for yourself to let go of things that are taking away a lot more from your life than they are actually adding to your life? Again, bringing more chaos into your life than they do peace. And you have to have that honesty to know, like, this isn't a situation for me. This is a situation that's holding me back. It's affecting me negatively. It's not good for my mental health and things like that. And I get it. That's a hard decision to make. But again, we can't hang on to the past. You can't hang on to how things once were, what things could possibly grow into, because potential isn't always guaranteed to come to reality or come to life. It's kind of like a NFL player or any sports player on the contract. Like, yeah, you might be a rookie, you might be a young person, but at what point do I just see you for who you are? At what point do you run out of chances in a way? At what point do I just have to say, you aren't worth it, worth fighting for? I can't allow myself to hold on to you because it's affecting me negatively, and I can only allow that for so long, essentially. But yeah, I know it's a hard decision to make if you're in that decision where you're holding on to things or certain people because you're seeing it for what it could be or what it once was. But sometimes you have to accept the reality of what it is, and make that hard choice. But, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the video. Hope you learned a thing or two. Hoodies will be out very, very soon. They are on the way. Be sure to join up on the self-discovery community. I just dropped a brand new series in there on letting go of past memories and how to, start moving forward in life, as well as a video on rejection. So be sure to check that out. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notices. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.